Whisper Hollow, the letter from Hollow Glen. The envelope was thick, yellowed, sealed with wax, and smelled faintly of smoke. Julianne Morrigan found it wedged between bills in her mailbox, though it had no stamp. Inside was a short letter. The Morrigan house calls you home. There is a debt to settle. Come before the full moon. There was no signature. Julianne hadn't heard the name Morrigan House in over 20 years, not since she was a child, visiting her grandmother's crumbling estate in Hollow Glen. The place had always frightened her, its ivy-choked walls, drafty halls, and the wind that seemed to whisper her name at night. But now, something inside her stirred, curiosity, or perhaps guilt. She packed a small suitcase. She'd stay one night, two at most, and with that, Julianne headed toward the valley, where the shadows never quite left the trees. Returned to Hollow Glen. The village hadn't changed. Hollow Glen was still a stretch of crooked streets and fog-veiled lanterns, nestled in forest like a secret. Locals gave her sidelong glances, muttering behind their scarves. No one greeted her. The cab driver stopped 3 blocks away from the manor gate. "I don't go near the hollow," he said, eyes fixed ahead. "Don't go near it at night either." Julianne forced a smile. "It's just an old house." The man didn't respond. As soon as she stepped out, he drove off without a word. The Morrigan house stood like a memory half forgotten, tall, lean, with too many gables and crooked shutters like eyelids hanging half open. Ravens lined the roof. She pushed open the rusted gate. As she crossed the threshold, the front door creaked open by itself. Dusk greeted her like breath, and behind it whispers faint, familiar. The locked room inside. The house was mostly just as she remembered: old wallpaper peeling in curling sheets, water stains like bruises on the ceiling, and that same strange stillness, as if the air itself had never moved. In the main hall, portraits lined the walls. Her ancestors, grim and one door on the upper floor, she recalled, had always been locked. Her grandmother had forbidden her to ask about it, but that night Julianne found the key in a drawer. It fit. The room was a nursery untouched since the 1800s. A rocking horse faced the window. Dolls sat stiffly in a corner, blindfolded with faded red cloth. On the wall above the crib were strange runes carved into the plaster. One doll turned slightly as she stepped forward. Julianne froze. The whisper returned. "She's come back." The hidden diary in the nursery. Beneath the floorboard, Julianne found an old diary wrapped in a handkerchief. The name stitched across the fabric was Eleanor Morrigan. The entries inside were odd. The hollow watches. It asks for names. Every full moon, it chooses one. "I've hidden the mirror." Julianne flipped ahead. The voice in the cradle is not the baby's. It asks to be held, but it's cold. The next pages had scratches, no words, just spirals drawn again and again. On the final page, "If I forget myself, let them remember me. Let them seal the door." A creak behind her. She turned. One of the blindfolded dolls was no longer there. The mirror in the basement. Julianne remembered the line, "I've hidden the mirror." Something inside her screamed to leave, but the pull was stronger. In the cellar, behind a stack of firewood, she found it, tall, covered in a heavy black veil. She reached for it. Her hand trembled. The moment the cloth fell away, the air went silent. The mirror didn't show her reflection. Instead, it revealed a little girl in an old-fashioned dress, standing in the nursery. Her eyes were pure white. Julianne whispered, "Who are you?" The girl mouthed something. "Help me." Then the mirror cracked down the middle. Behind her, something scuttled. She turned just in time to see a pale hand vanish into the shadows. The Hollow's voice that night. Julianne dreamed she was standing in the woods behind the house. The trees bent inward, forming a circle. The little girl stood inside it, holding a candle. "You have to say your name," the girl whispered. I don't understand." The girl pointed to Julianne's chest. "Before it takes you." Julianne looked down. Her name, stitched into her jacket, was missing. In its place, just red. She woke gasping. Her throat ached, as if she'd screamed all night. In the mirror above the dresser, her reflection turned a second too late. The village elder. She found the village's oldest resident, Miss Thistle, the apothecary, who had known the Morrigan. "You never should have returned," the woman whispered, pouring tea. "What is it? What is the hollow?" Mr. Soul looked grave. "It's not a place. It's a hunger. Your family made a pact. They gave it names so they could keep their own." Julianne stiffened. "A pact? The woman nodded. Your grandmother broke it. She tried to stop the cycle. But the hollow doesn't forget, Julianne asked. What happens if I stay? Miss Thistle's voice dropped. Then you'll forget who you are. It will wear your face, and no one will remember you ever existed. Family portrait back at the manor. Julianne stared at the massive family portrait in the dining hall. Something had changed. In the far corner, a new face had appeared, a blank one. No eyes, no mouth. A space had been left next to it, marked with faint pencil. Julianne M. She felt sick. Suddenly, every clock in the house chimed in unison. 11 p.m. The mirror in the basement hummed. She ran through the mirror. Julianne returned to the mirror. The crack had widened. Bleeding ink. The little girl appeared again, only now she was screaming silently. Julianne touched the glass end, fell through. She landed in a world made of fog and ash, identical to the manor, but rotted and wrong. The dolls moved. Paintings whispered. In the nursery, Eleanor Morrigan stood at the window. You shouldn't be here, she said, eyes glowing faintly. But you can end it. How? Eleanor took Julianne's hand. Give back the names. The memory room. Julianne followed Eleanor to a small room made entirely of mirrors. Inside each, a trapped family member stared silently. Morrigans who had been taken. Their names hovered beneath them like grave markers. Eleanor explained, the hollow keeps them. If you speak them aloud, they'll be freed, but it will try to stop you. Julianne stepped forward. Her name was last. She spoke the first name. The walls trembled. She spoke another. A scream echoed from the ceiling. She kept going. The trials Julianne faced, delusions, voices from her past, false comforts. The hollow took forms: her childhood dog, her late mother, her old friend Elias. Each tempted her to stop, each urged her to forget. But she remembered each name. Her ancestors smiled as they faded into light. Finally, she stood before her own reflection. The hollow breaks, she whispered. Julianne Morrigan. The mirrors shattered. The wind howled. The hollow screamed. Light burst from the floor. The manor collapsed in silence. A good ending. Morning comes. Julianne woke outside, beneath an old oak. The house was gone, only wildflowers remained. The villagers gathered. Miss Thistle embraced her. You remembered, she whispered. Julianne smiled. A white raven landed on her shoulder. It bowed, then flew away. She walked home with her name intact, her soul her own. Behind her, the wind whispered but only said goodbye.